What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and in this video we're going to be finishing off my mainstream coverage of Warrior format. Not saying I won't return to it in the future, but this will do it for the main set of videos for it. And I've had a lot of fun in Warrior format. I think it's a blast. I think it's very similar to GOAT in terms of how complex the games can get and the pace of play. And I do think that it's a really fun format that many people should check out because I think it's really cool. That being said, there is one deck that I haven't really covered yet on the channel for it that may be surprising to people coming to this channel from GOAT format because, in GOAT format, the biggest deck in the room is Chaos Turbo right now. That deck is sort of the deck to beat, and many people have sort of complained about Chaos Turbo, saying that it's too dominant. Now, I'm not going to get into what I think about Chaos Turbo in GOAT format yet. I will be diving into GOAT format soon, so look forward to that. But I figured, not many people play Chaos Turbo in Warrior format, so I figured I'd try to adapt a Chaos Turbo list to Warrior format and see how exactly it goes and see why people might not play this build when it is so popular in GOAT. Now, to do this, I did a very faulty sort of process where basically I took the latest winning Chaos Turbo list from Anthony Alvarado in the last PWCQ, and I basically just swapped out some cards that are banned here but aren't in GOAT, and I put in some cards that are banned in GOAT but are good here. So, for instance, I took out like Delinquent Duo and Graceful Charity. I put in Mirage of Nightmare, Painful Choice. So I just swapped things around like that. Now, I could have done other things here as well. For instance, Night Assailant is not semi-limited in Warrior format. It is at 3 copies, so I could have played a third Night Assailant, and I could have sort of made further alterations and stuff, but I just sort of wanted to take the bones of this deck from GOAT and see how it would play in Warrior. Because there are some reasons why this deck is a little bit less good in Warrior than it is in GOAT format. So let's go through the card by card real quick. And as a proviso as well, I'm not the best Chaos Turbo player in GOAT either, so I will, likely be misplaying in the games that I show off today. And also, I may not know, sort of the deep subtleties of this deck list, like, someone like Anthony Alvarado would, who built the deck and has been playing GOAT for a long time. So forgive me if, either I bring up a card here and I misstate its purpose in the deck, or, later when I'm showing off the games with this deck, I make a major misplay. But let's go through the card by card real quick. We've got BLS and 2 Chaos Orc as our Chaos monsters. These are sort of our boss monsters, and we've sort of built our deck to turbo, lights and darks into the grave to prepare for them. So, these are all very powerful. We've got Breaker, which is a dark monster. We've got Double Decoichi here, which is 2 dark flip monsters. We got Triple Grave for your Spy, which is more dark flip monsters. And the reason why these flip monsters are important is because we've also got Double Night Assailant, which when discarded can get back a flip monster from the graveyard. Now, oftentimes you are doing a Night Assailant loop where you're getting back another Night Assailant off of one Night Assailant, so that way you just keep cards in your hand and you keep that loop going. But occasionally you will get back a non-Night Assailant flip monster here, like a Decoichi or a Spy, or for instance, a Magician of Faith. This is a light flip monster, and it's very powerful, getting it back very strong spells in the format. We've also got Sinister Serpent as discard fodder as well, and we've got Triple Thunder Dragon here as well to get lights and grave and fill up our hand. We've got Tri-Infecting Virus, which is one of the only light or dark monsters, along with Sinister Serpent, but this card's just so good at clearing off the field that it's very important here. And lastly, we got Tsukiyomi to either reset our flip monsters or flip our opponent's monsters down. There's a lot of different things that you can do with Tsukiyomi in this deck, even if the battle position rules are slightly different here than they are in GOAT format. Now, moving on to these spells, we got Card Destruction to turbo through our deck faster. We've got Change of Heart to take control of our opponent's monsters. We got Confiscation and Forceful Sentry to rip apart their hand. We got Heavy Storm here, along with Mystical Space Typhoon for spell and trap removal. We got a Mirage Nightmare. We're also playing these 2 Raigeki breaks here, so I figured Mirage Nightmare was fine to include. We got Double Knock here to banish our opponent's monsters. We've got a Painful Choice to set up our graveyard and get a good card to hand. This card is very difficult to play in this format and this deck in particular, but it is very powerful, so you do want to be playing this card. We got a Pot of Greed here. We got a Snatch Steal. And lastly, we got an Upstart Goblin to draw deeper into our deck. For the traps, we got Double Jar of Greed to draw deeper into our deck. We got Double Raigeki Break to pair with our discard fodder, and also just pop opponent's monsters or spells or traps. We got a Ring of Destruction here to pop their monster and deal some damage. We got Torrential Tribute to wipe the board. And lastly, we got Double Dust Shoot, which can send cards from their hand back to the deck. For the side deck, I sort of also made some adjustments here because there were some banned cards in Warrior format. So I added in Fiber Jar and Scientist as 2 cards that are not banned in Warrior, but can be good to bring in potentially if I wanted to experiment with the build as I was playing. We also get a third Dust Shoot here. We get triple Solemn Judgment to bring in if we want it. We get double Sakaritsu Armor as well to stop more offensive strategies. We got a third Raigeki Break as well. Swords Revealing Light is here. This could potentially be good to bring in a variety of matchups, so I could see playing it. We got Book of Moon as well. Very versatile card. We got Double Admire the Dark, which can be good to bring in against things like our opponent's spies, or if they're playing like Berserk Gorillas or things like that, then this card can be good to bring in. We've got a double Ashura Priest here as well to deal with scapegoat strategies. And for the fusion deck, we actually, I didn't change the fusion deck because it never came up, but Gatling Dragon and King Dragoon are not in this format, so these should not be here. But besides that, the fusion deck's pretty standard. You know, we got Balter, Darkly the Dragon Knight, Dark Fairy Dragon, Dragons the Wicked Knight, Fiend Skull Dragon, Master of Oz, Ojama King, Reaper on the Nightmare, Reeve Sentry, Lost Warrior from Another Planet, and triple Thousand Eyes Restrict. Realistically, you're only bringing these out off of Scientist, either your own or one that you take control of from your opponent. But since you have an unlimited fusion deck in this format, you can just sort of proxy in whatever cards you need. Just make sure to take out the Gatling Dragon and King Dragoon there. So luckily that didn't come up in the games that we played. But it is good to note that those cards are exclusive to GOAT, not in Warrior. But that's going to do it for the video, or for the deck breakdown portion of the video. So let's dive into some games and see how we do. Okay, we got our first game here against Kesha YGO Vigil. If you can get them on the channel, always a pleasure to have them on. We're going to go into the rock, paper, scissors. They do win that. So we're going to go into the games here. We're going to be going second. And this is a really good opener. Oh, I should just show my hand, not theirs. This is a really, really good opener. If we'd gone first, this would have been killer. We would have been able to set double Dust Shoot. We would have been able to draw 2 off Pot of Greed. And, you know, we don't really have the best, like, monster starter here, but, like, that on its own is good enough to be insanely strong. As is, our opponent is going to activate Forceful Sentry, send back that Pot of Greed, which is very unfortunate. And then they're going to summon out a DD Warrior Lady, set 2, pass back to us. We draw for turn, and they've got a Dust Shoot of their own, so now they're able to shuffle back that Sinister Serpent. And that is very rough for us. Now our opponent has full hand knowledge. They can just play around the Dust Shoots the entire game, and we're looking pretty badly here. They're going to go for a Reinforcing the Army, getting out a Mystic Swordsman level 2 as well on top of everything. And now our flip monsters are just dead here because Mystic Swordsman level 2 can pop them. DD Warrior Lady is attacking in. And this is looking pretty bad for us. We draw Spy. We're just going to summon out that Spy and try and hit over the Mystic Swordsman level 2. Because if we just keep setting our monsters here, then we just lose them. So this way we can at least get some value, hopefully, off of our flips. But unfortunately, that Sakaritsu Armor is going to deal with the Spy. And our opponent's just able to go to town here, attacking in for another 2,400. So yeah, I'm not really sure there's much we could have done this game. They're going to set 1 pass back to us. We do draw Change of Heart, so that will get us out of this situation, kind of. We're going to be able to attack in to their swordsmen, banish both, and then main 2 just set a Knight Assailant, pass back to them. And they're going to bring out an Exiled Force, pop our Knight Assailant, pass back to us. And we draw a Spy, so okay, that's not bad. We can set the Spy, pass back to our opponent. Spy's a bit annoying to deal with. They bring out Berserk Gorilla. And that will not, you know, it won't take any damage on their part, but, you know, we do get out of this other Spy, decked in a little bit, and set up a board that's kind of tough for our opponent to beat. We're going to go for Upstart Goblin here to dig deeper in our deck. We draw Thunder Dragon, so we're going to pitch that, add double Thunder Dragon to hand here. And, yeah, I mean, like, this board is kind of hard for them to deal with, so I'm feeling pretty good about this, but they've got Snatch Steal on our Spy there. They've got Smashing Ground as well. And they're going to be able to attack in for 3,200 here, which is kind of rough. Yeah, we're in a really bad spot here. We do draw Card Destruction, so that can hopefully get us back into this game a little bit, because we can draw 2 off this, essentially. We're going to pitch those double Thundras, add a Tsukuyomi and a Painful Choice there. And this is a very interesting hand here. We could go for Tsukuyomi first, flipping down the Berserk Gorilla, trying to attack over that, and then go for Painful, in case they've got a way to stop the Tsuk. We could also go for Painful first and try and just get rid of that set, but I don't really think we have many good ways to get rid of a set like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go for the Tsukuyomi first, attack over their Berserk Gorilla. They've got Sakuretsu Armor there, and we're going to go for this Painful Choice. This is a very painful choice, as we need to somehow get like 5 cards here that might stop what they're doing here, because we're at a very, very scary position. So we're going to send Chaos Orc, Torrential, and double Knock. I think I also could have sent, instead of these 2 Knocks, I could have sent a BLS And I'm not really sure what the last card would be, because we can't really send Raigeki Break, we can't send Ring of Destruction, so I think the last card would have had to also be a knock here, honestly. I guess I could have sent Snatch Steal as well, and snatch the Spy and switch it to defense, just to the wall, but I feel like that's a really bad position, so I'm fine with this. The thing about the knocks is they're definitely the worst of these, because they, if our opponent has another monster, then we just lose to that, so that is kind of rough. But yeah, they do give us the knock here, and so we're just gonna have to gamble. We go for the knock on the Berserk Gorilla, pass back to them, and they are going to bring out a Giant Rat, and that is, yeah, that's just gonna be the end of the game. So if we had sent Snatch and BLS instead of the double knock, we might have been in that game for a little bit longer, but I also felt like that was kind of a risky position to be in. Like, if we'd sent Snatch and TT, or Snatch and BLS as well, they probably would have just given us the Snatch. We would have snatched the Spy, switched to defense. They can't attack in. Or I guess they could have also given us the TT, because we didn't have any monsters, so that could have been a 2-turn clock there either way. So either way, we were in kind of a bad spot. But I think we definitely could have potentially changed things a bit off that Painful to survive a little bit longer. But, as I said, Painful is one of the most skill-intensive cards in this format. So it's definitely tricky to use. So a bit unfortunate there. We are going first here. We do bring in a third Dust Shoot. I forget what we side out. I think we sided out a Jar of Greed for that Dust Shoot. But we draw into our other Jar of Greed, and we've got the Koichi here, so we're just going to set 2, pass back to our opponent. They're going to bring out a Mystic Sword in level 2 in the opener, attack over our Dekoichi there, and that's kind of rough for us. And we draw Painful, which is pretty good. We're going to go for Painful. That's going to be fine by our opponent. We're going to send all these hand rips, so that way we can get ripping apart their hand a bit. They're going to give us a Comfy here. That's ultimately okay with us. We bring out Breaker, and they're going to go for TT, popping the board that way. We go for Comfy just to see what they're working with. And we get to see that they've got Breaker, Reinforced from the Army, Berserk Gorilla, and DD Warrior Lady. Now, this is a bit of a tricky choice. We don't really care about the Breaker because we got the Jar here, so that's fine. Berserk Gorilla can get in for damage. We got Tribe to deal with that, though. Warrior Lady also isn't that bad, because we don't really care about the cards we have right now getting banished. So I think what we're going to send is Rhoda, just to cut our opponent off of different options, and just keep all the knowledge that we have there. So we're just going to pass back to our opponent. They bring out Breaker here. They're going to pop the back row. We are going to Jar of Greed to draw into a Raigeki Break. That's really good here. And they're going to attack in for 16. Set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Raigeki Break here. So we've got 2 now. We're going to go for the Tribe and use Prio to pitch the Night Assailant, adding back a Dekoichi here. So that can be good for drawing later. We're going to attack in for 16 here. That's going to go through. We're going to set a Raigeki Break, pass back to our opponent. And they're going to bring out a Berserk Gorilla attack over our Tribe, or at least attempt to, because we are going to go for Break here, pitching the Dekoichi to pop the Gorilla. We kept the Raigeki Break in hand because we wanted to keep disrupting what they got. We know about the DD Warrior Lady, so this can stop that. It can stop a variety of things that our opponent might use to stop our Tribe. We're going to attack in for 16 here. They've got Saku, though, for that. So we're just going to set the Raigeki Break, pass back to our opponent here. They are going to banish an Earth to bring out a Gigantes here, 1900 beater. That's pretty good. They're going to attack in for 19, dropping us down to 3500. They'll pass back to us. We draw Thunder Dragon, which is really good. Now we've got a Light and Dark set up, all ready to go, because we got the Dekoichi, the Night Assailant, the Breaker, etc. So we're going to Snatch Steal their Gigantes and attack in this way. We don't necessarily want to go for Chaos Orc, because that would then basically pop our Raigeki Break, and we don't want that. We also don't want it to be banished off DD Warrior Lady, so we're just going to bring out this Thunder Dragon and attack, pass back to our opponent. And they're going to bring out another Berserk Gorilla attack over our Thunder Dragon, and we could use the Raigeki Break here, but I figure we can save Raigeki Break for later, because we can just bring a Chaos Orc next turn and get over the Gorilla that way. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Magician of Faith, which is really good. We're going to banish a Light and a Dark here, go for the Chaos Orc. We're just going to banish the Berserk Gorilla. We don't really feel the need to play into things like, Sacrifice to Armor. And they are going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Knock here, so that's really good for us. We're going to knock the set. And, yeah, our opponent was surprised that we kept it in. I definitely think we could have brought it out, but I figured that we'd keep it in because of things like Giant Rat. We don't want to be attacking to that, and I figured my opponent might set that. We also have Tsukiyomi in the deck, so no one can pair with Tsukiyomi, but I figured that it would be fine enough in the deck. But game 3, I think I set it out. I think I maybe could have kept it in game 3, but it is what it is. But we attack in for 26. They are down to 1 card because we get back Forceful of Moth, and then we're going into game 3. So for game 3, I brought out, I think, 2 Dust Shoots, and I also brought out the Nox. I think I put in some Sakuretsu Armors and a Raigeki Break as well. So our opponent's going to bring out a rat, set 1, pass back to us. And we're going to set to Koichi, set MST, set Jar. If they heavy storm this, that's ultimately not the worst for us because Jar gets us a card. And, we can, MST doesn't really do anything here, but still, it's good to have in the back row just in case. They're going to Change of Heart our Koichi, though, and that's going to be annoying because they get the draw instead of us, and then they'll attack in for 2,800 here. They're going to set 1, pass the Koichi back to us. We do have this Sook, so we can Sook down our Koichi. We're going to go for Painful here. That's a bit awkward because, again, I set it out some of the Dust Shoots, so we don't have just 5 hand rips to send. So we're going to send the 3 hand rips that we do have, and then an Upstart and a Scientist. It's kind of a weird pick here. Scientist can deal with the rat, so I'm okay with that. And Upstart draws us into our deck, which is kind of awkward. But I do feel like Upstart isn't bad because we're drawing into our deck after thinning it of these other cards. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to send Upstart, but maybe Upstart was a bit underpowered there. So our opponent's going to give us the Upstart, and we're going to go for that Upstart draw. We draw a Snatch Steal, so that's not the worst thing in the world. We're going to Jar of Greed as well to draw deeper into our deck, and we're going to summon that Sook, flip down the rat, set 1, pass back to our opponent. Opponent's just going to MST that in the end phase, and they hit the TT. I figured TT would be a good way to get rid of the rat, and if they don't summon out something else, then we get the draw up to Koichi. But they saw ahead and got rid of that TT for us. So that's unfortunate, especially when they bring out an Exiled here, popping our Koichi, and they're also going to attack in for another 14. They are going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Raigeki Break here, so that isn't the worst. We could just set the break and pass back to our opponent. We also could set the Sook as well. But we're just going to go for Snatch, attack in for 14 off the rat, because the way I figure it is we got Sook for the rat, so we can, keep it on our side of the field. Then we get a powerful spell Engrave for Magician of Faith as well. So ultimately it works out okay for us, but our opponent is going to go for TT on the Snatch. That way, they do get the rat before it's, before it's set down, so they will get to keep the rat there. We're going to set this break and pass back to our opponent. They are going to... What are they going to do? They're going to summon out Berserk Gorilla. That's really rough for us. They're also going to bring out Gigantes here. So we can't Raigeki Break the rat because then we lose the game. So we have to Raigeki Break the Gigantes or the Gorilla. Of the two, I think it might be... It's awkward because, we can't summon Tsukiyomi and then get rid of it that way. So what we might want to do by Raigeki breaking the Gigantes is summon a Sook, attack over the Gorilla. But we can't do that because then they just attack in for rat for game. So it's kind of awkward. So we pitch the Sook, pop the Gorilla, and just to give us a little bit more life points. And yeah, it's not going to necessarily work out the best for us because we don't actually have a way to capitalize off the Change of Heart. If we take the Gigantes, they can just get another monster off the rat. So yeah, we just got to set the Magician of Faith as a chump blocker here. Unfortunately, they've got knock, so yeah, that'll just be the end of the game. They can knock our Faith, and then even if we break one of these, they still get in for lethal with the other. So rough stuff. I think I definitely misplayed off the Painful. I could have maybe sent something besides Upstart, but I felt like we were in a good enough spot to just get drawing deeper into our deck. But I don't know. Maybe that was a mistake. Definitely a rough one, to be sure. And again, as I mentioned, deck breakdown, I'm not the most skilled with Chaos Turbo, so it definitely could just be a skill issue on my part. But this wasn't the only game that I got with the deck. Let's dive in to the next game now. Okay, we got History of YGO 1 for our second match here. Frequent guests on the channel, always a pleasure to have them on. We're going to dive into the game. They will be going first here. We're going to be going second. We just can't seem to win those rock, paper, scissors here. They're going to set 2, pass back to us, and honestly, that's not bad for us. We're going to set to Koichi, set a ring, pass back to our opponent. We don't really have the most profitable pitches off of break, so I don't necessarily want to use it right now. And I figure ring should be fine enough. They go for Comfy, though, so they're able to pitch this Chaos Orc out of our hand, which is kind of rough. And now they're going to go for this Mystic Swordsman level 2 as well. They're going to attack into our set. We're going to try ringing it, but they solemn that to get rid of the Koichi. And now we're in a bit of a tough spot because, we can Raigeki break it next turn, but they know about our Faith. We don't really have the best spells engraved, but, this is kind of what we have to do. We got Dust Shoot as well, so we can at least go for Dust Shoot here. And we are going to Death Shoot them in standby, so we get to peek at their hand. We see that they've got triple Berserk Gorilla and a DD Assailant. That's very funny. I don't think it's going to be the third Gorilla that gets us, so we're going to send back that Assailant there. And yeah, so, I mean, now we know their hand. It's kind of rough because now they can get very aggressive there. They're going to attack into our set. We're just going to Raigeki break that, so that way, we keep our, card advantage a little bit. Maybe we could have Raigeki braked the Gorilla instead, but also if we draw a flip monster later, I don't want to just have it die to the Swordsman. So I figured it was better just to break the Swordsman. But maybe that was a mistake. We top deck BLS though, so that's very funny. If we had braked the Gorilla, we actually would have been able to win here because we attack over the Swordsman and then attack over the Warrior Lady, and that is game. But, we didn't do that, so we're just going to banish the Light and the Dark, bring out a BLS, and we're going to banish the Warrior Lady because I can deal with the BLS. Now, we maybe should have summoned this in defense because we do know that DD Assailant is in the deck, so if they hard draw into a DD Assailant, then they can clear the Berserk or the BLS that way. But I figured, like, if they're playing DD Assailant in the deck, since 3 DD Warrior Lady are legal in this format, it's like they're not playing, like, 3 copies of it, so it's more likely they're going to draw into, like, a Rhoda like that, or a DD Warrior Lady, and in that case, I want to maximize the damage that they're taking. So they do search out DD Assailant, but if we had had our BLS in defense, they would have just been able to search out a DD Warrior Lady. So that wouldn't have really mattered too much there. And they're going to take 1,300 from that. So, and then get in for 2,000 off the Berserkerla. We draw Jar of Greed, which won't really help us here. And they're going to bring out another Berserkerla attack in for game. So that's going to be the end of game 1. Rough stuff. Initially, in siding, I thought that I had thrown because I miscalculated the damage I could have gotten off of attacking into Gorilla and then the Warrior Lady. That would have been 2,500 damage, but not worth losing the BLS. And yeah, but I think that was a pretty good game 1, even though it didn't work out the best for us. I think we did okay there. But we're going to go for Painful Choice, sending our 5 hand rips that we've got in the deck. We did bring in the Dust Shoot again. And I think we also might have brought out the Nox this time because I didn't see a rat, and if I don't see rat, I don't really feel incentivized to keep in any Nox. But we go for Pot of Greed here as well, get 2 Thunder Dragons to hand to pair with our breaks, and we're feeling really good about this. We're going to set a Spy, we're going to set a Dust Shoot, set a break, and pass back to our opponent. We don't go for Mirage here because it's kind of useless. We can't really get down our hand size that much right now, so Mirage is kind of useless at this point. We're going to go for Dust Shoot, see what they're on. We could have saved Dust Shoot for if they've got Rhoda or something, but I figured it's just better to go for it in standby. Yeah, I feel like this is fine. They do have a Rhoda here, so it's kind of unfortunate for us. But what we're going to do is we're ultimately going to send back this Mystic Swordsman level 2 because they, they've got 3 warriors in hand, so whatever one of these I send back, they can get back off of Rhoda. They've got a Serpent in hand as well, but they don't really seem to have a way to make use of it in hand, so I'm fine with them having Rhoda, especially since we have this BLS here. We will get a Light and Dark Engrave pretty soon, unless they banish it off of Warrior Lady, but if they do that, then we get a Spy, so either way, I'm feeling fine here. And I kind of wanted to get them to use the Rhoda going for the Swordsman. So, yeah, I'm just going to send back the level 2. The way I figure it, too, is that, like, if they go for Rhoda on the Swordsman, summon out Swordsman, attack over our Spy, then we get out BLS next turn. We get in for 5,100 damage if they don't have back row to stop that. So I figure it's better just to try and get them to use the Rhoda on the Swordsman. But unfortunately, they go for Knock to banish our Spies from the deck. They go for Breaker as well. We're just going to Raigeki break that, pitching a Thunder Dragon to pop that. And now we're in kind of a rougher spot. We do have this Dekoichi here, so we're just going to set that. Again, trying to bait out the Mystic Swordsman level 2. They're going to bring out Exiled Force instead, though, popping our Dekoichi that way. And I guess this plays around Sakura 2 armor, which they might think that we have in the back row there. Either way, though, this will get us a Light and Dark Engrave, so we're going to bring out Chaos Orc. No need to go for BLS just yet. If they destroy our Chaos Orc, then, that's a Dark Engrave for BLS. More likely they're going to banish it off of, like, DD Warrior Lady, which is kind of unfortunate. But, it is what it is, and not much we can really do to play around that. We just kind of got to bait out the Warrior Ladies now. They're going to set one, though, and actually that's really good for us because now we have a way to play around Warrior Lady here. We're going to bring out Tribe attack into their set, which, I'm pretty certain is Warrior Lady, and it is indeed Warrior Lady, so they're not going to use the effect. We're just going to banish that with Chaos Orc and pass back to our opponent. They are going to summon up Berserk Gorilla, attack over our Tribe. That's fine because, now we can just attack over that with Chaos Orc or banish it with Chaos Orc. Either one. We got Sinister Serpent here, which is pretty good. We're going to Sook down that Berserk Gorilla, attack over it with the Sook, and then attack directly with Chaos Stork here. They do have the Sakuretsu, so that will deal with that. But ultimately, I think this is pretty fine. We've sort of been playing around what they've had, like, pretty well. Now we got another Light and Dark Engrave for BLS here. They're going to bring out a Warrior Lady attack in for 15. That will go through. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Mystical Space Typhoon here. We're going to banish Light and Dark, and we're going to bring out the BLS in defense. We think on the position when we're first bringing it out, and we all are just going to bring out in defense, because then if we want to summon a Tsukiyomi attack in for some damage there, then we can flip up the BLS next turn as well. Because the way battle position rules work in this format is that if you flip down a monster with a card effect, you then can't, if it was from attack to defense, you can't then flip summon it, because you can only have one manual battle position change per turn, but effect changes also count towards the manual change that you get. So it's a very weird rule, and luckily they do repeal it by the time GOAT format comes around. But you do have to keep that in mind when playing in this format. So we're going to set a Sinister Serpent here. I think instead I could have set the Tsukuyomi, because if we do want to use MST on something that they have, then, you know, we'd rather have Serpent in hand to discard off Mirage than Sook. But we get the MST here anyways for the Mirage, so I think it should be fine either way. And the Serp will come back if they do clear it with the Mystic Swordsman, which they do have. So, yeah, I feel like this is fine. They're going to attack over the Serpent, pass back to us, and we're just going to MST our Mirage, and we should have lethal here, because what we can do is we can just go for the Sook here, flip down our BLS, flip it up because it was already in defense when it got flipped down, and then attack in for 5,100 off the BLS and then 1,100 off the Sook, so that will be 6,200 total. So that was a much better game for us than game one. And it shows that when this deck gets going, it can be very good. It's just in Warrior format, it can be a bit tough to get it going. So we're going to draw 5 good ones here. And our opponent is going to start by just going for a T-set passing. That is fine by us. In standby phase, they do have the Dust Shoot here, though, so they're going to send back this Night Assailant, which can pair with our Raigeki Break, so I think that was probably the right choice there. We're just going to set a Spy, set Raigeki Break in Jar, pass back to them. They are going to go for Knock on our Spy. That will get banished. Quite unfortunate there. They're going to flip up a DD Warrior Lady attack in for 15, and we'll just take it. We want to save our Raigeki Break for a better option later, and also we want to have a better discard fodder for it. So they're just going to pass back to us. We draw Confiscation, which is pretty good. We're also going to go for Jar and draw into a Sinister Serpent, which is very nice. We're going to go for Confi here. We get to peek at their hand. We see they've got Heavy Storm, Mystic Swordsman level 2, Snatch Steal, and Solemn Judgment. I think of these, I'd rather get rid of Solemn Judgment, because we have a way to deal with Mystic Swordsman level 2 with our Raigeki Break here. If they go for Raigeki Break on the... or if they go for Heavy first, just to bait out the Raigeki Break, then we can break the Warrior Lady. Actually, I think I do just take the Swordsman here, because I figured, like, having Solemn plus Heavy makes the Heavy dead, right? So, or it makes one of them dead, right? One of them is not going to get used if you want to set all of them. And if I set the Magician of Faith here, then, you know, I can at least get back the Confi, rip the other from hand. So they're in a bit of a tough spot. They are going to go for a Berserk Gorilla here, attack over our Moth here with the Warrior Lady, but we're going to pitch the Sinister Serpent here to get rid of that, because we want to Light Engrave. So I figure it's better just to pop the Warrior Lady there. They do attack over our Moth with the Berserk Gorilla, so we get back a Confi here, and they're going to set 3, pass back to us. So that's fine. Our Confi's a bit dead here, but ultimately we know the back row, so it's not the worst thing in the world. We go for Upstart here. We draw Thunder Dragon, which isn't really the best right now, but we can just stall off our opponent by just setting Serps. We're going to set Serps, set MST, pass back to them. They're going to go for a Confi here, ripping out our own Confi. That is perfectly fine. The Confi was not going to get much use for us there. They're going to attack over our Serp, pass back to us. We get back that Serp. We're going to set the Dekoichi now and pass back to them. They are just going to bring out Exiled, but because they think that we have Serp set, they're going to attack into it with Exiled. We draw from that, and we get Heavy Storm, so that can force out the Solemn on their part, so that's pretty nice. We draw into a Dust Shoot here. We're going to set a Serpent and the Dust Shoot. Dust Shoot's kind of dead for us here anyways. It might seem weird with the Heavy in the back row, but we also kind of want to bait out their Heavy, so we might as well use a dead card here to do that. They're going to attack over the set with the Exiled Force, and then they're going to attack in directly for 2k off the Berserk Gorilla. They're going to set another. We just go for MST on that new set in case it's another Solemn. We don't necessarily want 2 Solemns in the back row there. It's a Saku, though. And now we've got a bit of an interesting choice. We're going to go for the Heavy Storm here because if we try summing out Breaker and it gets Solemned, then it's going to be really, really bad for us. So we want to go for the Heavy first to bait out the Solemn, and that will bait out the Solemn. Now, we do have a couple options here. We could either bring up Breaker and attack over the Exiled Force and try pop the Snatch. I think that is the best option, even though we do have a 50-50 chance of losing in that case. We could also set the Breaker or set the Serpent. But the problem with that is that's just sort of going along with the status quo. So, yeah, I feel like just going for attacking over the Exiled to deal a maximum amount of damage and then popping one of their back row will be the best. Unfortunately, we pick wrong. We pop the Heavy instead of the Snatch, so next turn they can just Snatch and win the game. But we're just going to, play it out, and they do indeed just do that because that is the best move they have right now, and we will lose the game. Yeah, they drew a Zilug on top of that, so even if we had gone for, like, set Serpent or set Breaker or something like that, then they could still have summoned out the Zilug and gotten in for more damage that way. So I don't really think we were in a winning position here. But still, I think that we played this game ultimately okay. Maybe Comfying, maybe I should have sent the Solemn instead of the Mystic Swordsman level 2. But I think it was fine doing that because, I wanted to recycle the Comfy. But I guess knowing that we could recycle it, they could play around it. So maybe the Swordsman level 2 would have been the best. But yeah. Either way, I think those were some good games. And we actually got one more game with this Chaos Turbo deck, so let's dive into that now. Okay, we got a game against Hylian 93 here, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. And we're going to be diving into the Rock, Paper, Scissors. So this is a really good opening hand for us. Although we do lose the Rock, Paper, Scissors again, so that's pretty rough. They're going to bring out a Gearfried and a set, so that means they're on a Gearfried version of the Warrior deck, so they're likely playing Blast Chains and things like that, so that's kind of unfortunate for us. They're also going to go for a Comfy here to rip apart our hand a bit, taking the BLS. That's a bit unfortunate, but it is a light engrave, so if we get one of our other darks engraved, then that's going to be pretty good for us. We draw Chaos Orc, so we feel very good about that. We're going to set these spies, set a ring, pass back to our opponent. If they go for blast here, targeting the Gearfried, we can ring the Gearfried and cause the blast not to have a target, so that way the blast will not be destroyed by a card effect and won't get the pop. So I can sort of go like 2 for 1 in that way. But they're going to attack in to our spy with the Gearfried, so we get another spy, and then they're going to pass back to us. So that Kaiku is kind of annoying because the Kaiku can stop us from getting a Chaos Orc here, which is pretty rough. We're going to go for a Painful Choice here, sending a bunch of cards here. I could have gone for Ring in the end phase last turn to play around whatever their other set was, in case it was like a Solemn or something to stop ringing the Kaiku here. I think the best play that we've got is going for Tribe, pitching a card to pop the Gearfried and then ringing the Kaiku as well. And that wasn't going to change based on what we drew potentially, so we could have just ringed to play around Solemn. But I think either way, we should be fine here. But we're going to go for Painful. We send a Serpent, Double Knock, Comfy, and Forceful. The knocks are kind of useless against this deck, so I just want to deck them a bit. And we can just pitch that if they give it to us off the Painful. They're going to give us the Comfy instead, which is kind of an interesting choice. But as is, we're just going to go for the Tribe, popping the Breaker, calling Warrior. And now we're going to go for the Ring on the Kaiku. They're going to go for Solemn on that, so that's kind of rough. Because now the Kaiku's alive, it can stop our Chaos Orc from coming down. We could Tribe, calling Spellcaster, but then we lose our Spies, which is really rough here. So I think this was honestly just a sequencing error on my part. I should have gone for Ring on the Kaiku before committing the Tribe, but you live and learn, and that's kind of just rough on our part. But we do go for Comfy here, get a peek at their hand. We see they've got a DD Warrior Lady and a Dawn Zalug. We're going to send the DD Warrior Lady so that way they can't deal with our spies usually. And now we could potentially also pitch the Chaos Orc calling Aqua so that way they can't rip apart our graveyard a bit. But I don't think that's worth it. I think it's just, I'll just take the L off the Kaiku attacking into the Tribe here. And we'll lose 2 from Grave. They can't banish the Knock here because Kaiku can only banish monsters in this format. So they're going to banish the Light and Dark from Grave, leaving us the Serpent. Serpent is nice that we get back, but I think it probably was wise to banish the Light and Dark there. I guess they could have banished the Light and Serp because, once our spies die, we'd get a Dark and Grave that way. So, but I don't think this was terrible. We're going to add back that Serpent, go for a Mirage here, and pass back to them. We also could have set the Serpent with the Mirage, so that way we would have been able to draw 3 instead of 2. I think that was a misplay on my part. We also could have just kept the Serpent in Graveyard, so that way we draw 3 instead of 2. But as is, we don't do that, so we just draw 2 here. We draw the MST, so we're just very lucky there. But if we had drawn 3, it would have been better here either way. So we're going to MST our Mirage. We're going to go for Thunder Dragon here, getting 2 more Thunder Dragons to hand. And now we don't have the Dark Engrave yet, but we've got steady access to light, so that's pretty good. We're going to set this Spy pass back to our opponent. Spy can't get out anything now, but at least the Spy can wall up further. And they're going to attack into the Spy with the Gearfried, take another 200. And every 200 counts when they're that low in life points. So we draw a pot, so we're going to go for pot, draw 2. We draw Night Assailant, so that is pretty good. We're going to set the Night Assailant, set a Jar of Greed, pass back to our opponent. And they're just going to set 1, pass back to us, not attacking into our set there. We're going to go for Jar of Greed and draw Tsukiyomi. That's pretty good. We're going to flip up the Night Assailant, try and pop the Gearfried, just so that way they don't have continual access if they've got multiple Blast with Chains. But they do have 1 Blast with Chains, so they will be able to pull that off. Equipping it to the Gearfried, it will get popped by Gearfried's effect, and then on a new chain, it will pop our Spy. So that's pretty rough. We're going to then go for Suk on the Night Assailant, pass back to our opponent. Now Night Assailant can pop another card on their side of the field. They're just going to switch the Warrior Lady to defense, pre-bat back the Warrior Lady here, attack into one of these Spies, get rid of that. So they'll take another 5, and then they're going to set 1 and pass back to us. I think, honestly, they could have just attacked the Kaiku into the Night Assailant just to clear it off the field, because right now we just keep getting value off the Night Assailant, right? We just keep bringing out the Suk. After flipping up the Night Assailant here, we managed to pop a Magician of Faith, which would have been pretty good for them. But as is, we can just go for Suk again, flipping down that Night Assailant. That Night Assailant will get us another pop next turn. So when you see this sort of value, you gotta like cut it off, right? You can't let me keep doing this. They're gonna take another 5, and then they're going to again pass back to us, leaving that Night Assailant on field. So this will be another pop that we'll be able to get, and we can reset it again if we want to. We're going to pop the Kaiku there, bring out a Chaos Stork in defense, banishing the Spy there. We're going to bring out Suk again, setting down our Night Assailant again, and then we're going to set this Raigeki Break, pass back to our opponent. So we managed to get a lot of value off this Night Assailant. They're going to go for Forceful here. They're going to send back the Tsukiyomi, and then they're going to switch the Spy to attack. They're going to attack into our Night Assailant. We'll pop the Spy in case they've got anything going on there in the back row to sort of stop us here. Although I think they set that this turn, so or no, that's been there for a while, actually, I think. But we're going to, in the end phase, just go for Raigeki Break, popping the Saku there. We'll get back the Serpent, and this should be lethal because we can just switch the Sork to attack and attack over the Zalug there. So that's where it shows some of the value of Tsukiyomi, if you're able to just combo it with a flip monster, because you can use effects to change battle positions at any point in the turn. You just can't flip summon after that. So if you flip summon first and then set it down with Tsukiyomi, that's perfectly fine. So for the signing process, I think I take out 1 Death Shoot, maybe more than 1 Death Shoot, and bring in a Raigeki Break maybe, because that's relatively good against this deck. But either way, I think we've got a pretty good matchup here. They're going to go for Comfy, ripping out the Chaos Orc here. Instead of going for like the Thunder Dragon or the Faith. I think that's fine. If it was me, I might have actually gone for Thunder Dragon in the hand because I don't have access to a Dark to get the Chaos Orc online. And by sending Thunder Dragon, I make the other Thunder Dragons in deck a dead draw, basically, because it only gets 1 Thunder Dragon from deck at that point, as opposed to 2. So I think maybe that would have been the option, but I also get just cutting off the Chaos access entirely there. So I think that's fine. We're going to pitch this Thunder Dragon, get 2 more Thunder Dragons to hand, get those draws out of the deck. And then we're going to go for Comfy here, ripping a card out of their hand that will go through. So we see Exiled Force and Heavy Storm. We can pretty easily play around Heavy, so we're just going to send the Exiled there. And then we're going to set a Moth, set a Break, and set a Jar of Greed. If they do go for Heavy here, we Raigeki Break the Tribe. We Jar of Greed to draw a card. So we're feeling pretty good about that. They're going to go for a Gearfried here. They're going to attack into our Moth. We're just going to let that go through. No need to break it early. And we're going to get a Confiscation back to hand there. They're going to attack him with Tribe. That's fine by us. And they're going to pass back to us. And I'm very glad I didn't like break the Tribe or something, because now we can go for Snatch Steal, grab the Tribe, break the Gearfried, and go for that. So we're going to go for Jar of Greed to draw an additional card here. We're going to think about exactly what to do here, because we could break the back row beforehand just to make sure this play goes through, and that will be what we are doing. We're going to pitch the Comfy here because, you know, we can just keep playing around Heavy. We're going to pop the back row, which was a Snatch Steal of their own. We're going to take that Tribe, pitching a Thunder Dragon, attacking in for 16, and then tripping over that for a Thunder Dragon of our own. But we are going to set that. They could be on Mystic Swordsman level 2, which would be pretty bad for us here. But I feel like it's ultimately fine if they go for that. I'd rather set this and play around Kaiku than keep it in attack and play into Kaiku. So they're just going to set one pass back to us. And we know it's not Heavy Storm because they didn't shuffle their hand after drawing there. So we could potentially just pop it with our Heavy, go for one trade there. But I think it's ultimately fine. We're just going to flip up the Thunder Dragon, attack in for 16, and then set the Spy here, pass back to them. They're going to set one of their own. We draw card destruction, so we could potentially go for that. But I think I just kind of want to get aggressive here. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip the Spy, and they're going to Solemn Judgment that. So that will stop the Spy from getting out more monsters from deck here. We could have Heavied to prevent that. But ultimately, this still does a ton of damage. So I'm honestly not that upset about that. So I'm fine just letting that go through. We're going to attack into the Moth there. They get back a Snatch Steal. And ultimately, that's fine. We could card destruction to get the Snatch Steal out of hand, but I kind of just want to let them keep the Heavy, which is kind of dead against us at this point. So I'm gonna set the card destruction as a bluff, just so that way if they do want to go for the Heavy, they use it now in case we draw a better back row later. Because I feel like they want this play to go through. So yeah, they're gonna snatch our Thunder Dragon there, getting for 16, but we've got Heavy for that. So yeah, we'll be able to get back to Thunder Dragon. We won't be able to win this turn, but we're putting them on a major clock here. So now we're going to attack in for 1,600, getting them down to 300. It's very unlikely they'll be able to come back from this. I know the Heavy's gone, so I'm just going to set the knock. Now, if they bring a Breaker, they got to make the choice. Do I attack over the Thunder Dragon, or do I pop the back row? If they choose to pop the back row, then they can only crash. So either way, I feel like this is good. They're just going to set one pass back to us. We draw Pot, so we're just going to go for that just in case we draw like MST or some way to guarantee this attack goes through. But we don't, so we're just going to attack it anyways. And it was just a ring, so they will be able to ring our Thunder Dragon, but that will lose them the game either way there. So very, very good games there. And I think by that point, we sort of had gotten the hang of playing this deck a little bit. I mean, I do think we misplayed here and there in this game as well. Like, for instance, we didn't get the Serpent out of our hand when going for the Mirage in game 1. And also, if our opponent had like attacked in the Night Assailant in game 1, we wouldn't have been able to get that nasty combo. Just keep flipping up that Night Assailant, keep getting value off it. But I think that we were probably going to win that game either way. Because we just had sort of inevitability with what we had in hand there. But yeah, either way, I think that was a pretty fun showing for the deck. Now, I do think that even though we won this last game here, I don't think the Chaos Turbo is as dominant as it is in GOAT format. Like, the deck is still good, don't get me wrong. And to be fair, the games that we lost here were against sort of an Earth Aggro deck, which Earth Aggro is currently on the rise in GOAT format, partially because it has a pretty decent Chaos Turbo matchup from what I've seen. So, you could say like, oh, well, it makes sense that you lost those because you're facing Earth Aggro as well. But I do think that Chaos Turbo has like inherent flaws in it. Beyond just me being a bad player and also facing kind of rough matchups, I do think that, for instance, Thunder Dragon is a lot worse in this format when, your opponent has things like Comfy or Forceful and no Duo. So that means that like, there's no real risk to doing a Duo when your opponent has Thunder Dragons. Or not a Duo. There's no real risk to doing Comfy or Forceful when your opponent has Thunder Dragons plus another card in hand, because you can just take the other card and leave them with the Thunder Dragons that do nothing. Same goes for like Night Assailant, where like Night Assailant's very good if you can just pitch it off Duo and get back a flip from grave. That's one of the sort of upsides to playing it. But in this format, you don't have that, and your opponent's never going to send Night Assailant off a Comfy unless you just have no flip monsters in grave. Now, the Night Assailants and the Thunder Dragons can still be used in conjunction with the Raigeki breaks and things like that, so that is still very good. And I do think like there's worthiness to playing them. And also, as we saw in game 1, the Night Assailant can just keep getting value if you use Souk to flip it up, pop your opponent's stuff. But I do think that those cases are more edge cases, and I don't really think the deck is as good as it in GOAT without Graceful Charity and Duo. And also having Graceful Charity makes the Thunder Dragons and the Night Assailants a much better inclusion, but here it's just kind of rough. Now, the deck does gain some tools off things like Painful Choice and Mirage Nightmare, so those are very good. So I'm not saying the deck is terrible. I think the deck might even still be tier 1, but I do think that the deck is not as dominant as it is in GOAT format, and I think that that is very exciting for the Warrior metagame. I'm very excited to see how the format evolves from here. Right now, GOAT Control seems to be on top, and Chaos Turbo generally has a good matchup against GOAT Control. So maybe if people sort of refine the GOAT Control list more beyond just taking a GOAT Control list and throwing in some cards that are not banned here or banned in GOAT, I think that this could potentially be a much better deck in the future. But I do think that it won't probably be the best deck in the format, by a mile at least. It might eventually turn out to be the best deck in the format, but like I do think it's a bit more competitive than its dominance in GOAT potentially. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. I think there are a lot of different opinions that you can have on this, and also, I'm not the best GOAT Chaos Turbo player. I mentioned this earlier on the deck breakdown. And I definitely misplayed in a variety of these matches. And I also think I sided incorrectly. My sideboard was probably incorrectly built for this format, specifically because it was originally tailored to face a GOAT metagame. And so there are obviously going to be differences there. So I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on this deck down in the comments below. Also, if you like this sort of content and want to see more of it, definitely subscribe to the channel. We are done with the Warrior format for now, but we are going to be diving into sort of some bigger retrospectives of the DM era as a whole, and also diving into GOAT format relatively soon. So that should be really, really fun. I got some fun stuff cooked up for that. So definitely stay tuned for that. Also, if you want to support me directly, I do have a Patreon, linked in the description down below. And if you do join the Patreon, you'll be able to get shouted out in these videos. So big shout outs to Tyler Compton, Dump Truck, GMYFS, Rinswin, Porkchop Coon, and Bren Donker. Your support really means a lot to me, and it really motivates me to keep making these videos. So thank you for that. If you want to play any games in this format or any of the others that I've covered on the channel, then definitely hop on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server, link in the description down below. But I hope that you enjoyed the video as always, and until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.